queen in the opposite bishop's position as it was. Capturing the bishop was fatal, and Ding Liren lost after winning very nicely the first game with white.
That's frustrating. That's frustrating to make a big error. It's one thing the guy outplays you, grinds you down, and we've seen the Sicilian again, and Magnus said, no more of those open Sicilians. We see what you can do in that line. Let's go something positional. But when you make a big mistake with 5 minutes, you want to kick yourself.
I know.
It's a big mistake. It's just such a blunder to miss one move. That's something he's going to have to rebound from, as Magnus is now taking him into very positional waters.
Yeah, d2, d3, a moral victory for Ding, as Magnus is avoiding an open Sicilian and instead is turning into a closed Sicilian, expecting the move d7, d5, which was played. Knight b1 to d2. This is, queen d1 to e2. This was a Bobby Fischer favorite, this King's Indian attack, usually with knight d2, bishop g2, and castles. Magnus has done a little wrinkle with the queen coming to e2. Let me refresh my board. And after queen e2 came knight f6, bishop g2, and bishop e7. And more moves have been played. Very quickly, castles, e5, knight d2, and c2, c4. A different approach.
We saw this, though, didn't we?
In the U.S. Championship, Gadakamsky on the white side, h4, b5, bishop f4. Very big theoretical battle. Was it against Alexander Lindemann?
I remember. But look at this. Ding
c2, c4 was Magnus's choice.
Yeah, and Ding Liren has played the move d4, going into a completely different structure.
Blocked position.
Which, essentially, after rook to e1, rook b8, looking for a b5 break, which Magnus simply ignored and played h4, essentially is telling, and now b5 is on the board, Magnus is saying, you can do whatever you want over there. I have ideas that Bobby Fischer has proven to be very, very strong on the other side. So there's a big argument, even though they're castled on the same side of the board, we get opposite wing play, and Magnus captured on b5 immediately.
I like this capture very much because essentially he's given himself a very nice outpost on the c4 square after rook takes b5, knight a3, I believe. Has Magnus played knight
Yes,
a3?
rook b8, knight c4. And that knight's going to be challenged to death as knight b6 was played.
Posting up in order to capture this knight. Now, in these positions, really it's about playing the move knight g5, which will open up this bishop to hit that knight on c6.
Knight started with b3, by the way.
b3. Okay, so he did play the move b3, but the move that would have definitely had my attention is knight g5 here. The idea is I want to make a tempo against this knight, and if you do something bad, let's just throw a bad move on the board, queen c7, I can go queen h5 or queen e4, but queen h5 and force some weakening. I really want to have this move h6 being played so that I can drop back and, sacrifice against the h6 pawn. But that was not what Magnus has played. He played the move b2, b3.
Yes, and captures on c4 followed by rook to b6, and now knight g5 has been played.
Okay, rook b6, I think that's a very useful move. This knight on c6 hanging, defend, and knight g5 again with those ideas. Knight takes h7 and queen h5 check and bishop e4. So let me just make a bad move for black for a moment just to show what types of attacking possibilities white has at his disposal. With the move bishop e4, he's threatening a check and checkmate in 2, f7, f5. For a piece, I get to attack, and again, some blistering attacks that black has to be very concerned about. A crucial moment here, Maurice.
h6 was played, chasing the knight back, and the knight finds a progressive square, knight on h3, looking to go to f4 and then potentially h5, and then the queen to g4 with a similar aggression on that side. He's first started after bishop e7, was played with the move queen to g4.
With a tempo threatening bishop takes h6.
And that means black will have to spend one move, and he played king to h8. And now queen to h5, again looking to take on h6 with the bishop e4 idea coming. This is starting to look very dangerous, to say the least, because it seems impossible to stop the sacrifice now.
Yeah, king h7, bishop e4 check is not doing black any good. Ooh, f7, f5, that's burning too many bridges. Well, I guess he's basically, if you got to play a move like knight b4 and say, go ahead and sacrifice.
Queen e8 was played, actually.
And the sack
Queen E8
instantly
and
after
bishop
queen to
h6.
e8. Magnus didn't even hesitate. He anticipated the queen e8 move, and with just absolutely no doubt whatsoever, he smashed through with bishop takes on h6, and now he's up
Because
on
taking on h6 was impossible, so
Yes.
Ding was just trying to get into a pawn down endgame with this move, queen
F5.
e8, and he plays f5. He was acquiescing that the attack would have been so strong, so he just needs to give up a pawn and hope to survive in the endgame. And indeed, queen takes e8, rook takes e8, bishop d2. Is there any compensation here for black?
How do you explain this last move? How do you explain this last move, though? After queen takes, rook takes, bishop d2, he played king to g8.
Well, he's
anticipating the
anticipating
attack
that
on-
knight f4 is coming.
But-
he wants to reinforce the e6 pawn, Maurice.
But he's getting killed now. The
Yes,
bishop
he
just
is.
went to well, go ahead. Knight f4, king f7, bishop f3, g6.
Because bishop f3 sets up this very nasty check.
Oh, I see what he's done. G6 is very savvy. Now having to defend his, but I mean, it seems sacrifices on e6 look really juicy coming to my brain.
There are temptations there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is
Bishop d5 is looking
tempting, but
yummy,
not
yum.
necessary.
But
Simply
neither one of
rook-
those seems to work just yet. Magnus first playing rook to b1,
Very simple
challenging that
move.
rook.
And if black doesn't take it, and I'm sure he's not planning on trading rooks, the rook can either post up to the b3 square,
did
and
trade.
even more aggressively to the b5 square.
Oh, he traded and put the bishop on a8. That's
Rook
never a
takes.
good sign.
Rook takes, well, bishop a8, he still has knight takes e5. At least he's still hanging in there with a threat of his own.
I got my doubts. Oh, you mean he's threatening to win a pawn clean?
Correct.
Even though the white rook will end up on b7, and Magnus has ignored
He's
his
played
possibility and played
h5.
h5. Now if you play g5, which was the standard response, he can put the knight on g6, guard the pawn,
Precisely.
and you can't touch it anymore. So that's what Magnus is doing, reinforcing the protection and just saying, what are you going to do? In that position, we have to play bishop back to d8, it looks like.
h5 has been played. We're anticipating the move g5, knight g6, and you're saying bishop to d8, just getting out of arm's length from that knight. The bishop is important. Defender of the
But
g5 pawn.
White looks for choice in this position, but if we can go back one move,
Yes, please.
g5 was played. Oh, knight g6. Well, then forget it, because I was looking at knight d5 tactics. But now we're here,
Yes.
and I don't know what else can he do than bishop d8.
Bishop d8 looks very forced, in fact. Bishop to d8, I'm thinking rook b5. Give me the pawn on c5.
So I'm forced to play bishop b6.
I think you have to toss in g4 first, because the bishop is defending the pawn on g5. The bishop would drop back, and now you have to play bishop b6.
Okay, he did play bishop d8. All right.
Yes.
So
Players
what?
are
And rook
catching.
b5. Hey, man, we're guessing some moves here. Rook b5 was played.
No, seriously, Maurice, these guys are good.
Yes, indeed. So now it's up to him. Will he play? And he did play the move, g4.
Yeah.
And
Drop
bishop
back
back to
with
g2. And now we're anticipating the defense of the pawn with bishop to b6
And
and
now
a4.
a4, just to get rid of that bishop on b6.
Yes, this was the next challenge that's coming, and this is a big one.
It's
And
over.
that.
Yeah, there's no way of slowing down a4, a5, and I'm afraid with an extra pawn, compare all the pieces. The rooks against one another, the bishop on g2 against the bishop on a8, the knight on g6, and the fact that you're just a pawn ahead. Magnus is beautifully using all of his trumps.
This is a slaughter.
Really,
busted.
really, really nice.
This has come down to
But
just a
that's so
straight
strange,
slaughter.
Jazz, because Magnus is white.
Yeah, I know. The white players have not been doing good in these showdown matches. Something about the counterattack has been winning the day for black, but not in this game.
Well, King's Indian attack, I think, it's a great choice.
Well, for sure. And the position after knight h3, I really didn't think it was that bad for Ding, but I love that maneuver, queen g4, forcing the king, and then queen h5, stutter stepping so that the sacrifice bishop takes h6, king with extra emphasis.
I will when he resigned.
There it
There
is.
we have
so
it.
hopeless.
Magnus
Beautiful.
Carlsen.
Get another pawn. Masterpiece.
Winning two pretty quick games, actually, giving the players a nice long break, which could be welcome for Magnus, but for Ding Liren, he's like, 20 minutes till I get a crack at you.
Wow, but it's been a real treat. These have been three very high quality game 10s. I mean,
and it's fun to watch.